Comparison of Nerf versus Airsoft and Paintball. I am not trying to argue that one of these is better than the other. I am just trying to bring up a few points for you to consider. I get a lot of questions saying, hey Coop, I really like Nerf, but these people play Airsoft, should I switch to Airsoft? So this is a bunch of points to think about if you're trying to compare and contrast the hobbies to choose one. Some people would ideally say, I'm just going to play all three, but really when three sports or hobbies are so close to each other, projectile tag games, it's most efficient to put all your money into one and sort of get hardcore into that because you can get better gear. Unless, of course, you just have tons and tons of money, then by all means, play all of them. My background, I got pretty hardcore into Airsoft when I was younger. I upgraded all my guns. They were running hot, rate of fire and velocity. I also had this upgraded sniper rifle and a ghillie suit, and I got pretty hardcore into it because I really enjoyed it. I've played paintball a few times, definitely not as extensively as Airsoft or Nerf, but I do have an understanding of the fundamentals of the game. And I've obviously Nerfed a few times, and I've modified a couple of Nerf guns if you want to look through my videos. So I do believe I have an accurate background of these hobbies to kind of compare and contrast them. So a few points to think about when you're comparing and contrasting these to try to maybe pick one. The most important, in my opinion, is what you enjoy doing. That is absolutely the most important thing for a hobby, because you're not getting paid for this, you should enjoy it all the time. Just like with any hobby, if you really enjoy one and your friends are pressuring you to go into the other, you may consider staying with your hobby if you really like it that much. If you don't care and you only want to hang out with your friends and have a good time with them, you may sort of change and just be with them and do whatever hobby you're doing. So it's where your values lie. Do you want to really enjoy it? And if you really despise, like paintball for example, and all your friends play paintball, you might not want to put all your money into it and hang out with them outside of paintball. But if you don't really care and you have excess money, paintball and you get to be around your friends. So your values are very relevant, and that's a decision you're going to have to make yourself. The next point is cost, which is brought up a lot in this argument, and I don't believe one is always cheaper than the other two. You can always play budget Airsoft, Nerf, or Paintball. Sure, if you talk about just blasters, you can buy a $20 Nerf gun, and you can't really buy that cheap of a paintball gun without it breaking pretty shortly. And the more important factor is you can get a $20 Strife and sort of compete with people who completely deck out their guns and throw $200 to $300 into their toys. If you buy a $20 Airsoft gun, it's going to be a spring-powered or very cheap AG. You will not be able to compete successfully with higher-end people. So in that sense, Nerf is a little bit cheaper on the blaster or the initial market, but the ammo is pretty costly, and you're going to be spending a lot of money per war if you play outside, losing ammo. You're not going to acquire it all. Your recovery rate's limited. And compared to Airsoft, where you can buy, 4,000 BBs or 5,000 for like $15 US, you can shoot all day long, and you don't even care. It's only 15 bucks. Paintball is pretty expensive, and you don't ever collect your paintballs, so that's kind of expensive, but I don't think one hobby is always more expensive or cheaper than the other. Especially when you consider nerds like me who throw $200 to $300 of materials into certain projects that you really like, because I really like this hobby, and that's worth it to me. I throw all these materials into this project, and people commission me, and that's just material, so labor's on top of that. They're spending tons of money on Nerf guns. But assuming you really like your hobby and you have a decent income or you have a part-time job trying to work to get extra money, the cost shouldn't be that important. The next point is places to play and your restrictions with that. Nerf is by far the easiest game to play because you can play it anywhere. When people look at you playing with Nerf guns, it's just a bunch of nerds. It's not like violent terrorists. If you tried to play Airsoft in a park with realistic looking guns, especially with the people with camo and gear, that could frighten people and police will be called, and I'm pretty sure it's illegal. Plus you're littering with BBs, and paintball would be dangerous because that stuff can really hurt, like that bruises you. So if you accidentally shoot some guy walking around the park, that could seriously screw him up. Where you live in the world or the country is also very important to places you play. Locally, I could find about 2 or 3 places to paintball within an hour's drive. No one Nerfs around me, so I'd have to drive 3 hours to get to a very small Nerf game. Nerf is a very small hobby that not many people play. A lot of kids play it in their basement, but people like me are not going to be invited to a 12-year-old's house to play in their basement Nerf guns. I mean, the parents would think I'm a pedophile, and that's just creepy. I can't find competitive Nerfers because it's not a very mainstream hobby. Airsoft and paintball, on the other hand, are very mainstream. You can always find guns, components, all of that stuff. Nerf, in that sense, is mainstream, but you cannot find like competitive players of that nearly as easily as Airsoft or paintball. Obviously, if Airsoft is illegal in your country, depending on where you're viewing this from, it's probably not going to be that common. That should go without saying. But if you really enjoy a hobby and you can never play it because geographically you're just limited on finding other people who play it, you might not put a bunch of money into that hobby. That might not make sense. The next point is the playing attitude of the general population of that hobby. This is all over the place because it really depends where you're playing for the attitude generalization. I've played with really competitive Nerfers, Airsofters, and Paintballs, cheaters in all of them, and just really awesome, friendly people in all of them. So it's really hard to generalize. Some people always say paintballers cheat and wipe paintballs. You've got to be really competitive to want to cheat in a little hobby like that. For a casual such as myself, if you want to go out with friends and play paintball, saying everyone's going to cheat, it's probably a little exaggeration. But the attitude is very relevant. If you're the person who's really into the military and you want to be around people like that, Airsoft might be better because there are a lot of milsim enthusiasts, so people dress up just like the military, they walk around, they give each other commands in the lingo and the jargon, which is pretty cool if you like that stuff. I personally don't enjoy being around that. I don't like someone assuming they have operational command over me in a hobby when they have no actual authority over me and they try to boss me around. It pisses me off. I prefer being equals with everyone and just screwing around and having a good time. So if I showed up to a milsim event with that attitude, I would not get along with many people. One attitude is not better than the other, and I don't mean to suggest that, but you have to pick your personality type and be realistic with what group of people you want to interact with. Paintball, there's very much both sides, really fun, playful people who do play certain games, and then the hardcore milsim, so that's all over the place. Nerfers change by the area of the country of the world. I'm usually around really fun people, but it can get pretty competitive. Most of the competitiveness is miscommunication on the internet because a lot of people troll, including myself, trying to come across as a total tryhard, and then once you show up at a war, it's all about having fun. So it's kind of a joke and sort of confusing to explain, but hopefully you understand. And it really just varies on the people and the host of the game, especially with Nerf. If the host is completely laid back, it's really hard for people to get competitive, especially if the host is like, hey, calm down, let's have some fun. Or the host wants to ramp it up and get all intense. Everyone sort of feeds off that. So the most important thing with that is to pick your personality that you want to fit with and what attitudes you want to engage. The next point is modifications or customization to the various blasters, toys, guns, markers, whatever, all of these options, and the gear and stuff. All of them are fairly customizable, but in my opinion, Nerf is the most fun for me and what I like to do. I don't like to just throw in pre-made custom parts in airsoft guns or paintball markers. Those things are usually really expensive for a little small piece of molded plastic, which I got upset about the prices because if somebody knows the manufacturing cost, they realize how big of a rip-off most of those pieces are. And the R&D on those really isn't even that great because it's a slightly improved version of the original, so their R&D is minimal. Research and development is R&D if you didn't know. So it depends what type of customization you like. If you really like, if you're the tinkerer, I imagine most tinkerers will enjoy some aspects of Nerf if you have interest in it otherwise. But Airsoft and Paintball really don't take the same level of tinkering or intuition of skill, like the modding ability to just swap out parts. I was doing that when I played Airsoft when I was like 13. I could take apart mech boxes and everything. Really not that tricky. Get into cutting and integrating things at a young age with Nerf products, and it gets pretty tricky. Most of the pre-made stuff really isn't that hard, though, for the other two hobbies. And that's something that I really enjoy of Nerf. I really, really enjoy modding. Actually, I believe I enjoy modding more than actual nerfing most of the time, unless it's a really bad mod in a really awesome war. I actually do enjoy modding more. So that goes along with pick whatever you like. One's not inherently better than the other, but that's just my opinion. And the last thing is not really a point to consider, but a point to ignore. Societal expectations. I receive tons and tons of comments that are getting more aggressive as I get older with, I'm too old to play with Nerf guns. I'm 22, I'm in college. I've been doing this for a few years. But I urge my viewers, if you're considering all of the hobbies or just Nerf or whatever, to ignore societal expectations. As long as you're not hurting anyone, I believe you should be able to do whatever you want. That's a philosophical standpoint, not as much just for this argument. I play with Nerf guns, and I am happy in my workroom. I don't interfere with society. I'm not doing anything negative. If anything, I'm just throwing money into the economy buying these products, so that's helpful. But there's not a rational argument for me not to do this hobby, or for you not to play Airsoft, or you not to play paintball. These hobbies are not inherently harmful. If you induce public fear running around with a fake firearm, like an Airsoft gun, that's a negative. But playing the hobby properly, any three, they're all very fun, and they don't hurt anyone. So I urge you to ignore the peer pressure if your friends are like, oh, Airsoft's for nerds, go play paintball, or Nerf's for children, go play Airsoft, or whatever. It goes all the different directions. Everyone's trying to insult and mudsling at each other. But really, it comes down to doing whatever you want, not so much what you're expected to do. And I would urge you to take that argument elsewhere, not just to the three comparison. Just if someone's trying to get you to do something based on society, rethink that argument. When it comes down to it, that argument is irrational, and I urge you to do what you enjoy doing, ignoring peer pressure and all of that. Sort of some points for you to consider. I don't believe one hobby is inherently better than the other two. I play Nerf. I will continue to play Nerf, but I also play Airsoft and Paintball. I play Paintball probably once a year, so definitely not frequently, but I enjoy them. They're fun hobbies. I just don't want to throw money into 3 hobbies, and I really, really enjoy Nerf, so I'm going to stick with this one. So if you want to continue to troll me and tell me I'm too old for this hobby, keep going. I love it when people make comments on my videos. Haters gonna hate, but I have thick skin. Come at me, bro.